what is my right to win in this space? Why am I uniquely qualified, deliver a superior product for my niche that others cannot. But बिना मरे स्वर्ग नसीब नहीं होता है, right? So you have to die yourself
Yeah.
to get to the heaven. The meaning is you can't outsource this to a third party or to an agency. Don't try to send anything to sell.
Yeah.
The moment you're sending anything to sell, you just lost it. We loved that platform because it was not pushing us to buy products every time. It used to push great piece of content to us, and have that exponential curve, that point of inflection coming in for your business. I think it is easily 18 to 24 months journey.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GroundZero podcast. Today, we have with us Mr. Dhiraj Jain, co-founder and CEO at DotKonnekt. DotKonnekt is aimed at solving the deep pain point of rising acquisition costs for D2C brands through an experiential commerce platform that creates unique and immersive shopping experiences by seamlessly converging content, community, and commerce. The team has recently secured a pre-seed funding of $1.2 million and are well capitalized to shore up organic revenues for mid-market D2C brands. Hi, Dhiraj. It's great to have you here. For today,
Hey, thanks, Yash.
For today, we'll deep dive into understanding how mid-market D2C brands today can focus on driving revenues organically on their website and majorly focus our attention towards the concept of 3C, which is content, community, and commerce. Excited to have this conversation with you, Dhiraj. Let's get started.
Hey, thanks for having me here, Yash. And with your background, I'm sure you'll be able to relate to the problem that we're trying to solve better than most. And see, this is something, that we call it like, collective ikigai of our team. That, this is something that we are all passionate about. We talk about like, how we need to fall in love with the problem statement and not with our solution. And the problem statement that we picked is that how can brands attract traffic organically to their D2C site? Because we saw a lot of these, intermittent solutions, temporary solutions, which we call like banded solutions rather than, when a surgery is needed for a brand, wherein like, you are just throwing money on performance marketing, which by the way, hasn't been really performing for the past 2 years. And given our background, like, the founding team has over 2 decades of experience in the space of retailer and brand digital commerce and experience space, working globally between US, Europe, Australia, APAC. And this is something that we have seen, the rise of various models, various platforms, and we saw a big white space and a gap emerging, especially during the pandemic. And that's where, like, we decided to leave our cushy jobs and take the plunge. And, it was a leap of faith for us, but we were convinced enough that the problem is big enough. Not that we had a very clear idea of like how we will solve it. We had some approach which we wanted to validate. And yeah, so that's how our story started. It's been over 2 years now. And I can certainly say that in the last 2 years, we have learned more than our previous 20 years combined. So that way, it's been a fun ride. So happy to be here again. Thanks for having me.
A story of every startup founder, actually. A very similar story to you. We also started, me and my two other co-founders, we started Upriver e-commerce just on the onset of COVID on almost, I remember the date is almost 11th March of 2020. And,
Okay.
and we also got a similar kind of problem statement just on the marketplace side first, that there were not enough agencies that were doing the right thing for upcoming D2C brands, right? So very, very similar story. We built it over 2 years. I think it's one of the top 3 agencies now in the marketplace enablement
Excellent.
space. So yeah. But yeah, Dhiraj, I want to understand, deep dive into your experiences that you have had in the last few years, and how have you seen the D2C space evolve over all these years, like in the last 5-10 years, if you can give a give a glimpse of that to the
Sure.
audience.
Yeah, so I'll start with like, what I first observed in the US. So I was in the US, for almost 10 years and then relocated back to India just about 10 years ago. And that's when actually the emergence of the digitally native D2C brands started really happening in the US with Casper and Allbirds of the world, right? And later on, of course, in India also caught up, and several iconic brands today, they started, after 2010, 2011, and and so I've seen every 4 to 5 years, there's been a different way of addressing D2C channel, right? So initially, there used to be where Allbirds and Caspers of the world, they tried challenging the status quo, right, in their own categories where people thought, for example, mattresses. Today, we find it very, common to order it online. But those days, the only way to buy mattresses was visiting the experience centers, trying it out yourself. No one ever thought that something as experiential as mattress, people will be able to buy it online, right? But they challenge that status quo. So I would say that initial wave of D2C brands were highly innovative and very audacious, in their approach, right? Where they challenged the norm, they tried out different concepts, and it worked. I'm sure there were many that failed, but some of these guys, they actually paved the way for the lot of D2C brands after that to follow through. So that was one wave, where I thought like initially there was a lot of innovative stuff happening, right? And really pushing the boundaries. Later on, I think for the next 5, 7 years, uh, you know, while at the risk of, making a blanket statement here, but I think there were a lot of copycats, right? Where it was all about, just trying to follow a certain playbook, right? Where you just set up a store on Shopify, right? Get some drop shipping partners, run performance marketing ads on Facebook, Insta, Google, get traffic next day, and then basically make and reasonably profitable sales, like initially. So because the CACs were reasonably low, and for whatever Facebook is accused of tracking every moment of you, but they did actually did extremely good segmentation, right? They were able to really do very targeted ads, and which was invaluable for a lot of these brands. So where they were able to really make that work. Now, in our mind, in fact, we call it like, this was like, getting addicted to steroids. So like, you were pumping money tonight, tomorrow you have orders, and, you think like, this is like, gold rush, right? You just rinse and repeat the same model over and over again, and just that's how it started growing. And even at, in cases where CACs were not really making much sense, people still started pumping, because then the third wave came in. The third wave was where a lot of venture capital came into the D2C ecosystem, especially in the last 5 years, right? So where there was like, this was the new thing, where every VC was looking at investing in some good D2C brands, and they would often overlook the unit economics, thinking like, over a period of time, it will, do well. In fact, again, at the risk of making another blanket statement, which I'm unfortunately known to do that, like, take a little bit of a contrarian view, but very directly. See, it's like, selling dollar for 80 cents. Anyone can do that, right? But the math, the way it works is when you're selling dollar for 80 cents, that 80 cents goes to your GMV, right? And the VCs are valuing that, okay, 5 times GMV also, at least your valuation is increasing by $4. So by actually making a 20-cent loss, if your valuation is increasing by, $4,
$4,
right,
yeah.
or $5, it's like to 40x, right? It's a no-brainer. Why would you not do it, right? So that was the third wave that happened, right? And which I would believe, has been a big disaster for the whole D2C industry, because it has actually encouraged a lot of wrong behavior. See, as a brand, fundamentally, what is your, ikigai, right? One is your passion for that product, that segment, and second is, building that brand. And both of these, they require significant hard work, right? Understanding the consumer's pulse, doing product innovation day in, day out, telling a story in a very seamless fashion, so that they know why what you stand for, why your product is more superior, right? Things like that. But because of this whole game of performance marketing driven growth, and then value multiples, and then raising subsequent rounds, I think it just messed up the entire D2C ecosystem in the last few years. And then the fourth wave, by the way, that happened 2 years ago. It was like, this whole house of brands,
Yeah.
right? It was like crazy. I mean, people world over were copying, Thrasio model left, right, and center, where while they were, claiming they're copying Thrasio model, they were actually not. Because in my mind, so Thrasio model was very different than most of the house of brands model in India, where they were acquiring, brands at, crazy valuations, without any solid fundamentals. And these are the brands that anyway had weak fundamentals of the third wave that I talked about, right? And imagine now you have 20, 30, 40 brands like that in your portfolio, and now you need to grow them, right? So, and again, there was a big gold rush 2 years ago. Everyone was, creating a house of brands, and it was, all over the place. Some companies becoming unicorns in 6 months, house of brand, without taking names. But it was bound to fail. In fact, I wrote an article, I think year and a half ago. I
Yeah.
think it's on ET brand equity, where I mentioned, like, the house of brands or house of cards. A lot of people advise against it. What are you doing? Like, everyone is going gaga about house of brands, and you're trashing that. I said, it's not, I'm not doing it for the sake of doing, because I sincerely believe. Because see, house of brand is a collection of, brands, right? I mean, each brand fundamentally has to grow. If the fundamentals of each brand are, poor, and then you are just aggregating the problem, you're not solving for it. So anyway, so I think long answer to your short question. So I've seen this way, where it started as highly innovative D2C brands, then copycats, and then, really badly managed D2C brands because of easy venture capital. And to finally to top of it, like, the whole house of brand, which actually mess it up even further. And today I think most of the brands, they have no clue how to build the brand organically.
Yeah.
Everyone is looking for easy way out. Can I change my creative? Can I change my copy? Can I change my agency? Right? Can I change something to get better performance? But I think those are exactly the wrong questions to ask. It's not about how can you do performance marketing better. The question has to be, how can you build your brand better, so
Yeah.
that the customers come to you organically. All these, you should do performance marketing, it's important, but do it smartly. It can't be the only way to build the brand. It only can complement, but the mainstay, that has to be organic growth, which most brands unfortunately are not focused on.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So just to summarize this, you started, I think what you're talking about for the first 10 years, which is from 2000s to 2010, just to attach some dates to it, is the Amazon way, where Amazon came in and started selling all those products in the US market and became really big. And then I think the innovative D2C brands came into the picture in the first few
Like
years,
Caspers or
Jaspers
Allbirds
and
of
all
the
that.
world.
And
Yeah,
after that, I think from 2013, 2014, or before that, I
a lot
think
of
you said
copycats.
copycats came in. And then the VC funding started flowing in the market because they saw rising revenues,
Correct.
and they started acquiring customers at a loss. And
Yeah,
house of
and
brands
that
just
just
made it
started
worse.
a bad behavior,
Yeah.
in most of the D2C brands, where
Yeah.
focus was not on building the brand, rather, gaming the valuation
Yeah.
equation, right? And selling dollar for 80 cents. And then finally, of course, the mother of all challenges, which is, house of brand.
Yeah. So hypothetical situation, Dheeraj, in case VC funding gets removed from the market, right? Do you do you think that for people for the performance marketing angle then would become very lucrative, right? Again, because the CAC would really go down.
Yeah,
So
no,
do you think by design it has been made by the VCs that because they have given out so much money to to these brands today that go ahead and acquire all the customers that you can and acquire them at a loss also, right? Because we are playing the valuation game.
Correct.
Doesn't that solve for that?
So again, hypothetically, probably yes, but again, I would say it will be a temporary solution. See, I always believe that both organic and inorganic, they have to go hand in hand. You can't be 100% focused on like taking shortcuts. Okay, just let me hire an agency, give him $1 million and he'll give me $5 million revenue. It's not going to happen. As a brand, it's your responsibility to tell your story, to build innovative products, to share good content that helps customers, take advantage of your products, engage with them, do the hard way. All of this has to complement, right? In fact, to your point, like, yes, if hypothetically, if all the VC money is taken out, probably CAC will certainly come down because last year, if you just see, like, Amazon started, ads business just 2 years ago. And in second year, they have made $30 billion revenue on ads, which is their most profitable business of Amazon ever, right? So all this VC money is only going to Amazon, Meta, and Google.
Yeah.
Brands are not winning. Only these companies are winning.
No, makes sense. Makes sense, Dhiraj. Dhiraj, thank you for sharing that. I think this is a very interesting concept. I want to now move on to discussing the major problems plaguing the D2C brands today. For the audience, one, can you share some deep problems that D2C brands are facing in India and in the US? Additionally, can you talk about these challenges that crop up specifically when you build on plug-and-play platforms such as Shopify and WooCommerce, despite them having a deep partner ecosystem?
Yeah, so I think there are two parts to the answer. Like, first is the core challenge at a fundamental level that I see most of the D2C brands have is, their, right to win, right? If a brand can explain that succinctly, what is their right to win in the market, right? Very simply, forget about, any technology, forget about anything. What's your right to win? For example, if, someone who's a food scientist, right, who has done PhD and research on millets and, found a unique way of combining these millets in very healthy snacks, and get rid of all the maida and sugar and everything and make it tasty also, right? And they have their own, that farm to table, supply chain also with them. So they have a great right to win, right? They can explain, okay, this is my right to win. I know this space. I know my customers. I know my ingredients. I can, create some amazing stuff to it. Problem that I see with majority of the brands is like, unfortunately, a lot of them are Me Too brands, right? So if today a lot of people talk about, this clean beauty. Now, clean beauty, if you also search today, you'll find hundreds of brands having exactly the same products, probably exactly the same bottles, just with a different label, right? So in my mind, these are not brands. These are just labels. Your manufacturing is third party, your R&D is third party, packaging, bottling, everything is third party. Then you're not building a brand. What is your right to win there? So at a fundamental level, if the brands can answer this, what is my right to win in this space? Why am I uniquely qualified, to deliver a superior product for my niche that, others cannot? I think, that is a fundamental challenge that most brands have. If they can answer this problem very confidently, I think rest everything can be worked out. Both organic and inorganic channel growth, all of that can be worked out. See, all of those can only help selling a good product and a good story. If you fundamentally don't have a good product and a good story, and you need both. If you just have a product and no story, won't sell. If you just have a story and no product, of course you won't sell. So you need both, and then all of these things can be worked out. Coming to the second part of a question on the platform of choice today, whether it is Shopify or a WooCommerce, because majority of the brands, they start their journey on these platforms, right? Primarily because these are very inexpensive and easy way for them to get started, right? Very easy to add a catalog, build a cart, do the checkout. Even if you have to hire an agency to do some extension here and there. There are marketplaces, there are small capabilities. So you can quickly do it, right? So very easy way to start, and that's why they have really succeeded. But the flip side to that, doing it so easy initially is that it is highly constrained, highly templatized. Now on one hand, when you have products also me too, and your site experience is also me too, then how will you differentiate? The only way now you can bring the customer is by throwing insane amount of money to performance marketing, and then giving them insane offers of buy one get one, 60% off, click here, and make the purchase. The customers who come to you through this channel, tomorrow if your competitor gives a better offer, or gets more audience through that channel, they will go to them, right? So there is no brand loyalty that you're able to build there. So like I said, fundamentally you need to differentiate at your proposition itself. Why are you uniquely qualified with your product? Second, where you have to give a very unique experience to the customer to come to you organically. I'll give you example. So over the last few years, this onion hair shampoo became big fad, right? Almost every company out there created an onion hair shampoo.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if one were to place an ad on Facebook, the CACs will be through the roof because there are hundreds of companies bidding for the same keywords. Of course, CACs is going to be through the roof, and it won't make any sense. But let's say if a brand creates a good content around how to take care of a dry frizzy hair in winter, right? And there, you talk about, 4 or 5 home remedies. You say that, okay, you need a hair shampoo, that has, onion hair extracts, right? And how this onion hair extracts help you in this condition, and by the way, here is, the product, which is, you can buy right here if you want to try maybe a sample pack or whatever it is, right? Now, what happens is if someone comes to this content, by reading this, first you are trying to solve that problem, right? You like that content, you're building the trust, and then you are giving them an option to purchase that from you. Now let's say one way is, of course, you can do SEO for this, right? But that will take some time for it to grow. The other is, even if you were to do content marketing for this, and if you were to place an ad on Insta saying like 5 home remedies for dry frizzy hair, guess what will be the CAC? It will be 1/100th of the product marketing, because no one is bidding for this. Who's bidding for this keyword? But let's say if you have done one search on Google that how to solve my dry frizzy hair problem in winter, and you are on Insta and someone has created this content and bid for that, you will see this content, you'll click on that, you will your CAC will be peanuts, because no one else is bidding for this. And when you read this content, and within the content, but the key is, and by the way, a lot of people have tried this, it's not that this is unique, but what happens today is all your content sits on a content management platform like a WordPress or a Contentful, right?
Yep.
All your transactions happen on a commerce platform like a Shopify or a Magento or a Salesforce. Now, at Max, what a lot of people have tried is that when you have written this content, there are 4 home remedies, and in between you will do a product integration. You'll put an image, you'll give a link, but what will happen is it will redirect you, right, to a different site. And the moment the redirection happens, 90% of the traffic drops because it is poor experience. You were still reading the content, and now you're being forced to move to a different site, which, today human attention span is less than that of a goldfish. No one is going to come back and say, okay, so now let me read it again. Those customers are gone. But what if while reading the content itself, you have an ability to say, you know what, just add this to the cart or add this to the wish list and continue to read, continue to engage. Now, that's the way you can solve this problem. But doing this is extremely difficult because there is a technology constraint. And that constraint is, today, either you have a full stack content platforms or full stack commerce platforms. They're two silos. They don't talk to each other, right? I mean, only ways you can hop from one to another. You cannot integrate them seamlessly. That within the pieces of content, you integrate the pieces of commerce, you can't do it today. only way to do that is you will have to build a custom platform, right? Now, how many brands can afford to build a custom platform?
Yeah.
In the context of US, it will take millions of dollars, right? And at least a couple of years. And that too, when you have some solid tech chops in-house. Otherwise, like, it can just go on forever. So that's the problem that, why people have not been able to do it, right? And this is the way we believe is the right way to do it. Some brands have done it also. We have seen them, but they have spent insane amount of money to do it. And these are like, big brands which can afford to do it. We are democratizing that experience. So that's what we call that we are democratizing D2C for brands, wherein we are giving you an experiential platform where commerce is a byproduct of that experience. Because we fundamentally believe if brands have only commerce platform, right, then consumers are not going to come to them. Let's think from a consumer standpoint for a moment, right? Let's take the same example of onion hair shampoo. Let's say if you like onion hair shampoo of a particular brand, what will be your first instinct? Where will you buy it? Will you think of going to that brand's website, set up an account, place an order, not sure when it will be delivered, or will you go to an Amazon or a Flipkart, or if it is available in a nearby store, right? Answer is obvious, which is what is happening. We'll go to, because we are, there is a lot of convenience in going to some of these marketplaces and ordering it from there. Even though I may love the product of a particular brand, but I'll still order from Amazon because it's so convenient, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm searching for, like, this solution to my dry frizzy hair, in winter, that information is not available on Amazon or in a neighboring store. But if a brand has done a great job of creating an experience like this, when I search, I find a good content over there. And within the piece of content, if they're engaging with me, did you want to talk to an expert? Did you have any question? And integrate the product seamlessly there also to purchase. That experience, cannot be done through any of the commerce platforms out there, be it Shopify, WooCommerce, or Salesforce, or Magento. And that's where we believe that brands should not have a commerce platform. They should have an experiential platform where commerce is a byproduct of that experience.
No, amazing. I think this is a very wonderful piece of information because what I've seen again in India as well, a lot of Me Too brands are there. They start building on Shopify and create those websites. Until unless the product itself is so stellar that customers come in, you run performance ad, the customers come in and they buy it at a steep price. People have to innovate and make it a content and commerce platform, right? So most of these brands then are who have raised VC funds, right? So I think there's a couple of brands that have raised VC funds. They are able to actually hire developers and build those custom platforms where they're integrating content with commerce, but none of them are still doing what you're telling me right now, right? Even in India, I have not seen someone seamlessly integrating content with commerce, right? That seems a little
it's not easy.
Yeah.
No, the reason is it's not easy. And we recognize that fact. And that's why we took more than 2 years to build this platform in the stealth mode. And we just announced in January when we did a soft launch. And right now, our focus market is US, not because it is not relevant for India. It's just because for us, the market is humongous in the US. So our focus is the mid-size brands, that have actually outgrown this whole Shopify experience, but don't have the wherewithal to build their own custom platform. And they're stuck in between. And they will jump from maybe Shopify to a Magento, to a BigCommerce, to a Salesforce Commerce, and everywhere they're disappointed because these platforms were not built for them. See, come to think of it, till date, no one has ever built a commerce platform for brands. All the commerce platforms out there, they were either built for retailers or they were built for mom and pop shops. And that's why we believe that commerce platforms, but they were designed and built for retailers, where you have hundreds of thousands of SKUs, multiple categories, subcategories, and the whole experience is search-based discovery, right? Then there was a wave of commerce platforms like Shopify, WooCommerce, BigCommerce that were designed and built for mom and pop shops, where what they needed was a very simple templatized way of adding a catalog, building a cart, and doing the checkout, right? No one ever built commerce platform keeping brands in mind. The reason is until the pandemic, D2C was contributing to less than 2%
2%.
of brands revenue globally. And even for that 2%, that old playbook of Shopify plus Facebook combination was working. That you
Yeah.
just put a catalog on Shopify, hire an agency to run ads on Facebook, and boom, it was working, right? Now it is not working. So suddenly now that old playbook is dead. But another thing that has happened, brands realized that the true power of D2C is not just by using it as yet another sales channel. The true power is where you are using this to learn consumer insights, because this is the only channel where you have customer intimacy. You're learning from the consumer behavior. You have all the first party data. You can try out new experiences, new products. You can do innovation there, right? You can engage with them. You can build the brand, build the loyalty. All other channels are black boxes, whether you sell it on Amazon or all the marketplaces or even to the retailers. They're black boxes. They don't share any consumer insights with you.
Yeah.
So today, now what's happening is every brand wants to do at least 20% of their revenue through D2C channel,
Yeah.
right? If not more. Now, so on one hand, their aspirations have gone from 2% to 20%, but the old playbook is dead because the CACs have also grown 10x to 20x of what it used to be earlier, right? So that's where we felt that something has to be done where a purpose-built platform is needed for brands to run their D2C channel because no one else has done it. Everyone has done it from the point of view of retail or SMB. We thought like something needs to build from the point of view of brands. That what do brands need? Why would a consumer come to a brand's website? Not to buy product in the first place. They'll come to interact, become knowledgeable, right? And engage, learn from it. And if they build that trust, then they might buy the product from you. So
Yeah.
the whole equation has to be flipped. Rather than creating a commerce platform, we say you build an experiential platform. And that you can do, we say you attract with great content, you retain with community engagement, and then commerce happens as a byproduct of that experience. So that's what we call it as a convergence of content, community, and commerce. And like you said, it's not easy. It's very difficult technically. That's why not many have been able to do it. And we believe that we are uniquely placed to solve that problem given our 20 plus years experience in the space. We did deep validation of this problem statement, our approach as to how we will solve it through a headless and a composable architecture, so that we don't give a templatized experience to the brand, so that every brand has their own unique experiences through composable architecture. So we offer them power of a custom platform, but convenience of one unified platform, right? At a fraction of time and cost that it would otherwise take to build it like a custom platform. So that's where we started our journey.
Yeah. No, makes sense. Makes sense. But Dhiraj, I want to move on. I think you largely talk about integrating and starting with content first on these platforms, then engaging them with community, and then finally making making the sale, right? I want to get a more nuanced understanding of this 3C strategy. What are these things that brands need to first fix or keep in mind before they even jump into implementing the 3C strategy one? And maybe it can be a strategic role that we need to understand about the D2C channel. It can be pricing, it can be assortment, it can be the data insights capturing that you talked about. Maybe it can be an investment in the team, content team, maybe, right? Or it can be a funding aspect also. So what are these things that you need to keep in mind today? The brands need to keep in mind before they implement this strategy.
Sure. No, great question. In fact, my answer to that is, little old school, because I think that's the way it needs to be done. Last 10 plus years, I think was a bit of uh, a different era, right? Which was little unreal because of all the reasons I explained. Fundamentally, I mean, go back 10 years back as well. The only way to build the brand is where you should be able to communicate the power of your products, right? How that product helps the
Yeah.
consumer. Because see, why consumers buy your product? To solve some problem, right? Not, I mean, it could be a hair problem, skin problem, whatever, taste problem, style problem. They're trying to solve some problem. So someone should be able to like fundamentally articulate the, like I mentioned, right? That what is your right to win? Why are you there? What your product does? What problem statements are you trying to solve? What pain points for a customer you're trying to solve? Starting with that, and then saying, so rather than creating content for, okay, how my product is great, it has ABCD, it is BPA free, chemical free, clean beauty, this, that, no one cares, right? I mean, this is now hygiene. There maybe it was novelty a few years ago. Now it is not. So, but I mean, the example that I again gave, like on shampoo, instead of creating like an ad for that shampoo, to invest in building a great content. Okay, so understand this onion hair shampoo. What problems can it solve? Maybe it solves this whatever dry frizzy hair problem. Maybe it solves some other issue, right? So create some rich content around that first. So think from that, okay, what problems it is going to solve for people. Create, you have to invest heavily in building content,
Hmm.
right? There is no way out. I mean, all brands, they should be media company first. It's extremely important. They have to build rich content. Yes, they may outsource, partner to some extent, but they can't just wash off their hands to an agency and say, Acha, you figure it out. It won't happen because the brands need to say that okay, these are the problems that we solve for. This is how we are uniquely placed to do it, and that narrative has to come out in these stories. Whether it's a blog, whether it's a video, whether it is any engagement that you do, having experts like some of the beauty brands has started doing these stylists and beauticians on the platforms, right? So offering these services. So you have to invest in first content and then community, right? Building that, seeding that, and you have to be patient. So and we believe that it's a significant mindset shift that which is required. So it's like steroid versus Ayurveda. So someone who's been used to taking steroids for the past several years, and it's for like pumping in money today, maybe at a loss, but you'll get some orders tomorrow, right? But this model is not like that. This is like Ayurveda. You have to do it every day, day in, day out. And then over a period of time, you will start seeing the uptick, and it will be an exponential curve, right? And there are several examples of doing it, but it is hard work. So there are two aspects. One, we can provide a platform that will seamlessly blend content, community, and commerce. But end of the day, brands will still have to create good content. If they create trashy content, oh, buy my product, 20% off, this or that, no one is going to come for that, right? But if they craft good content around it, like, how this, what do you need to do? In fact, don't even start, okay, how my product can solve this problem. You should start with, okay, you have this dry, itchy skin, right? Why it happens? Because of these reasons. These are the 4 home remedies that you can do. And by the way, you need a product that has ABC ingredients. And do you want to try this product? That kind of a flow, right? You got to invest in building great content like that. So invest in content team, invest in community managers, invest in really truly building a community first,
Yeah.
right? And then rest of things will follow. It will happen.
Hmm. No, that's quite insightful. However, I have I have a doubt in that, right?
Mhm.
How engaging through community seems like a valid approach, to be very honest, right? And many of the brands have done that. They've got some great insights from their customers. I think Mama does that. There's a lot of there's Just Herbs, another brand that I know that continuously engages with their communities and get a
Mhm.
lot of product insights.
Yep.
However, what I also understand is communities have a scale issue as well. uh, do you agree with that one? And if that's the case, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, see, I mean, to be honest, community building, there is no silver bullet to that. See, it's not that, okay, once you create a base of maybe a few 100,000 users or a few million users, and now, you just own that audience and you can do whatever you want, it won't happen. See, first of all, building a community of few 100,000 users itself is a big challenge, right? Getting so many people aligned. So we believe that community engagement should be looked at multiple levels. See, one, of course, is you can have a big community, like, who are actually giving you product insights, but more importantly, you should always strive to create very focused and topical communities as well, right? Maybe do a, social engagement somewhere, could be a webinar, could be a, in-person event somewhere, right? Getting some, does not have to be like, always like, hundreds of thousands of people there. You should try out, always continue to try some small experiments on different themes. And see, today, again, let's look at the definition of community, right? Why people, like-minded people will come together because they will believe on something common, right? Something in common. So if that appeals to them, they will come. So for example, if it is sustainability, for example, right? So let's say a lot of Gen Zs and millennials today, they are super conscious, right, about the environment. And if sustainability in beauty is close to their heart, and if brands can actually take steps and do something around that, like whether it's in terms of packaging, reusable packaging, throwing out some content, telling like how we are becoming carbon neutral, what are we doing, you know basically educating, telling, and also seeking advice, that guys, make them part of the solution. And guys, I mean, we want to do this. We are unable to figure this out. Be honest. Be true to yourself and say, look, we want to do this. We are unable to find a packaging that works because of these reasons. Does anyone have any ideas around it? Can someone connect me to? I'm telling you, people would love to help. They would take it as their own cause, their own mission. That I need to help this company do this. I like their product, but I don't like what they're doing to the environment because of the unsustainable packaging. So involving, so you got to find that plank. That's why I said everything will start with like, what your brand stands for, finding topics related to that to create content, finding engagement opportunities on that, engaging the people truly, and not just, and see, today's consumers are extremely smart, right? They will see through the bullshit. If you just try to put up a facade of doing community engagement, but end of the day, you just want to throw promotions in a face, they will see through this and they will just bounce, right? They're not going to come back. But if you truly believe in this and go out there, be vulnerable, be open, be transparent, say, look, this is what we're trying to do. We need your help. Tell us what else we can do. How do we do this? That is how true communities are built. And we have seen enough number of examples where people have done that. But again, it is hard work. It will take time. You cannot have a silver bullet, or you just switch on a button. Okay, tomorrow, okay, done. Community is suddenly engaged. It's not going to happen. So someone who's willing to put in that hard work, there are ways. See, technology can only enable you, but end of the day, you will have to harness the technology. And for that, you have to really, really work hard. There are no shortcuts. Those days of shortcuts are over.
No, makes sense. I think content game is a hard game. Mostly it's not about the content game. I think it's more about the engagement that happens after that. How quick are you in the responses? What are you available to the customers even after that content is pushed out, right? Because a lot of customers would reach out to you. Are you giving them the right solution on the calls as well? That really matters. I think what is your take on chat GPT coming into the picture and disrupting this content game, right? Because say for example, this onion hair shampoo, right? I've dealt with this product in a couple of years, and I can today give a prompt to chat GPT and they can give me a good prompt about and a good content piece about how you can apply content onion hair shampoo and why is it better than other shampoos. A lot of things can be pushed out from that. So definitely reduce the efforts of entrepreneurs. What do you think about that?
No, so again, ChatGPT, is a very fascinating, evolution. I think it's a double-edged sword, right? It is fantastic. It is great. And we ourselves, we are a big fan of, harnessing it. But our point of view, and why I said like, it is double-edged sword, that on one hand, you can quickly create some good quality content through it. But then the flip side is so is everyone else, right?
Exactly,
They can do it.
yeah.
Everyone else can do it. Now what happens is suddenly the quality of content improves for everyone. But then that becomes the new normal, right? So if in pre-chat GPT era, you would have created a content like that, you probably would have, stood out, but now you won't. So now you have to work extra hard. So in a way, in a relative situation, it is the same competition, right? But what we believe, like our point of view is, you should certainly harness not just chat GPT, but in general, the generative AI and overall AI, right? Because we believe that, the ones that are going to be successful in the future are the ones that will harness this to augment, and not solely rely on this. See, we believe, like, there will be two, I would say, like, three segments. One segment, they will rely purely on ChatGPT, and whatever you just give some prompts, create content, push it. I think it may work for a while, for some time, but then soon everyone else will catch up, it will die. The others who will ignore, right? A lot of people are still in denial mode. They say, no, no, this is all bakwas, this is all bad, it's not going to work. And especially, of course, people who are in this space, the content creators, I'm sure it's a big jolt for all of them,
Yeah.
right? Because suddenly now their livelihood is at stake. So, they are trying to ignore. And my advice to them is, don't be in that category, be in the third category, where you use this to augment your own capabilities, right? Use it for creating base content, but keep the secret sauce of, humanizing all of that, and adding, that distinct mark, and the distinct taste, which only you can bring in, right? So
Yeah.
someone has to harness it, but don't solely rely on it, and
Hmm.
don't even ignore it. So you got to be in that third bucket.
No, makes sense. Makes sense. I think there's a way to use ChatGPT, and then there is a smarter way to use ChatGPT. I
Correct.
think
Correct.
brands need to understand that today and harness it that way. Makes sense.
Correct.
So, Dhiraj, now we move on to discussing some relevant strategies that brands at different stages of their life cycle can deploy to improve their organic revenue numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to recall this. I was casually scrolling through your LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
and this one of your LinkedIn posts, right? You talk about studying successful examples of brands that have been attracting organic growth
Mm-hmm.
uh, year on year. Can you talk a bit about these case studies, right? That would be super helpful for the audience.
Sure.
And further, can you also, when discussing these case studies, give out, how their media mix has changed, and maybe year on year, and how have their revenues amped up during the process?
Sure. So let me take a couple of examples from the US. So
Yeah.
where actually we have seen some good, brands harnessing this 3C model over the years, right? And it took them some time to get to that stage. So one, good example, one of my favorite one is Goop. So it's spelled Goop. It was started by Gwyneth Paltrow, way back, in early 2000s, initially as a newsletter.
Okay.
Later on, she, pivoted that into a full content platform. So this was a platform for all women, to come and engage and, around fashion, beauty, food, lifestyle, all of that, right? And she used to create a lot of content around, let's say, what she's cooking, what's her beauty regimen, what she's doing, and things like that. And likewise, others also started contributing, right? So this platform attracts, insane amount of organic traffic, right? They don't have to put out, ads on your Facebook, Insta Reels. It's that people come there, like, almost like we go to Twitter or, LinkedIn. There are a lot of women today, they go there just to get some inspiration, some ideas. They read the content, and within the content, they have integrated the product seamlessly,
Hmm.
right? And then you can just, while you're reading, you can just add them to the basket and continue to read, continue to watch videos. It does not redirect you to a commerce page or anything. Now they've been able to do it because it's a custom platform. They have invested insane amount of money to build this out, and they have taken a lot of time, and it's a great story there. There's another brand called Hims and Hers. So, Hims and Hers over there, like the whole experience starts with a set of questions. They'll ask you, okay, why are you here today? Let's say you say, I'm here to solve my hair problem. So what exactly in the hair problem? What is the condition? What is this? They'll ask you a set of questions. And based on that, they'll customize the whole experience for you, right? So now what happens is, these guys, the loyal customers there, they have built that trust that it is not trying to give like one size fit all solution to everyone, right? It is first trying to understand me, my problem, and then giving me the right experience, the right product recommendations, and then I purchase from there. So now these people, while I'm not privy to their exact marketing mix, so to say, but I would say overwhelmingly it is organic. They still do some content marketing here and there, but it is overwhelmingly it is organic because people just come to them on their own because they've built that trust. Tomorrow if they have any other issue, they will go there and check it out. Okay, how do I solve this problem? Because like I said to my earlier point, as consumers we buy products to solve some problem, right? So if we can, and while it's a different story that now a lot of consumers are conditioned to search for specific product, that okay, I want this onion hair shampoo. It will be, there will be some, a lot of people like that. But at the same time, there are a lot of consumers, they don't know what is the specific product they want, right? And that's why we have picked, chose to focus on four distinct categories. One is like, beauty, personal care, then health, wellness, nutrition, fashion, lifestyle, and home, kitchen, and garden. Because these are the areas where consumers may not have, a specific product in mind, but they have a problem in mind. So whether it is about how do I create a work from home, a nook in the corner of my room, some ideas for that, or how do I dress for, let's say, this particular occasion. See, this requires a lot of education, a lot of engagement before the customers can make up their mind. Likewise in beauty and luxury and all of these areas, right? Uh, so wherever the consumers require any sort of education and inspiration and engagement, that's where the brands need to have an experiential platform. Give them that experience, educate them, engage with them, help them find solution to the problem. And as part of that process, if your product happens to solve some of that, they'll be likely to buy that directly from you rather than going to the marketplaces.
No, makes sense. But Dhiraj, how can brands, say a very early stage brand, maybe doing say for Indian context, say they are doing 2-3 lakhs in revenue on their Shopify website, how do they today start going through the content route, right? Because you said that these are very expensive solutions. Again, hiring a developer and changing your Shopify layout is very expensive.
Yep.
So how does a brand move into that direction, even when they don't have a VC funding or they don't have external sources of funding? How does a brand should approach this problem? How should a mid-market brand, say, doing a 20, 30, 50 lakhs revenue a month, how should they approach it? Because again, they would also have a significant stretch on their resources, even after having those 50, 60 lakhs, because they don't have a good EBITDA number still. How these two segments solve their problem statements today when it comes to this content game?
Yeah, no, very pertinent question, Yash. Unfortunately, there's not a very clear answer to that. The reason I'll tell you is while our platform that we have built is to solve this exact problem, but at the same time, early stage brands will not be able to harness it because it will be an expensive solution, because it is a complicated solution to build in the first place, and hence it is price premium as well. Mid-market brands, yes, they can harness. They can, through this, this is the right way to do it. For early stage brands, I will suggest this. Do what groups of the world have done, for the initial formative years. Like, create tons of content. I mean, there is no second way, you have to create tons of relevant content, and the problem state, you got to always think about that problem statement that you're solving. Keep writing, keep creating educational content. And if you really are able to create that good content around it, people will come to you. Now, you may not be able to harness a truly seamless platform like this to begin with, but at least create some good content, on your blogs, on your Insta, and build that, small community. Start building that community. Start creating. There are several, smart hacks around, whether it's building a newsletter, whether it is like, conducting some events and things like that. Start building that. Start churning out, a lot of great content to them, right? let them find value in it. In fact, I gave Gwyneth Paltrow's example. She started her, newsletter way back in early 2000. Then she, after several years, she created a content platform. And after a few more years, she started doing commerce through that, right? So it didn't happen on day one. Now, all of this, I'm not saying that every brand today has to wait for a decade or more to start monetizing. Now, all of that can be crunched into a few months or maybe a year or two, right? But you still have to work hard for the first year or two. I mean, uh, unfortunately, there is no shortcut or a silver bullet solution for an early stage brand to, create, this kind of an engagement. You will have to do this the hard way, and once you have reached a certain scale, and obviously at some point of time, we'll also be able to come up with a light model of our platform, which will be able to solve for the early stage brands as well. Right now, it is you know a monster of a platform. It has everything, because the mid-sized brands, they require a different level of expertise and experience. And given that we are building it for the US market, and there the nuances are even different. So at some point of time in our roadmap, we also have plans to have a light version where the early stage brands can also harness, but not right away.
No, makes sense, makes sense. But just to uh, just to get more clarity on this, right? How and it's great building the community, but how does a brand today, what are these effective strategies on how brands can today build and nurture these online communities? Like, what are these? How, if you've seen some examples, how are brands today really engaging with their communities? Is it on a daily basis, on a weekly basis? Do they have WhatsApp groups, Instagram groups? Are they engaging everywhere? How is it really happening today? What's the best practices that you think so brand should
Yeah.
follow?
See, the first best practice I would recommend is, and before that, I'll maybe quote one Hindi saying, because I couldn't find a relevant, English quote for this. So, उसमें, like, you say that बिना मरे स्वर्ग नसीब नहीं होता है, right? So you have to die yourself
Yeah.
to get to the heaven. The meaning is you can't outsource this to a third party or to an agency. As a founder yourself, you have to, really start writing and churning out this content, talking to the customers, engaging with them, right? You got to do it yourself day in and day out. Number one. So as a starting point, you cannot give it to anyone else. Yes, your team members and others can help, but you got to be there. If that is number one. See, number two is in initially, don't get worried about different tools and technologies. Whether you create one unified community platform, whether you do it on Insta, whether you do it on WhatsApp, Telegram, email, news, doesn't matter. You pick. In fact, initially you may have to try everything, right? So let's say you need to find a reason, to how to reach out, even if you're reaching out to them on WhatsApp. Because you would have also noticed, since WhatsApp opened it up for businesses, initially it was very selective when brands were reaching out to you. Today it's become another spam, right?
Yeah.
Where, because people are overdoing it,
Yeah.
right? Some of these brands, I mean, they feel that, okay, unless they're in your inbox every day 6 a.m. and they you will lose it. But the problem is they're doing disservice. I mean, you got to nuance it, right? And again, there is no right answer exactly whether you should once a day, once a week, once a month. It depends. It depends upon your category. It depends upon what kind of customer base you have. Is it urban? Is it rural? Is it mid market? Is it high end? Is it luxury? Right? And so different understanding that customer segmentation very well, having an hypothesis of, like, talking to some people in that segment, that what kind of experience do you value, what do you hate, people doing that primary research. I think I have not really heard many brands doing it in last several years. That primary research is an
Hmm.
very, very important tool. Just going out there, and the brands that have done it, because I've heard some good stories of founders actually listening into a lot of these customer service calls, making deliveries themselves, talking to people. That's the right way. You got to do it, really, to get unbiased view. Because if you're asking your friends and family, or just people like you, it's just an echo chamber, right? You're not really getting the true feedback or true inputs. So that's something, that you got to do day in, day out. Pick up those nuances and start writing about it. See, I would say it's like, you would have heard that saying, right? That 1% improvement every day. End of the year, it is 38x of, where did you start with? So if you're doing this day in, day out every day, right? You're talking to people, you're getting some ideas, some inputs, working on it, creating content, churning it out, rinse and repeat every day, right? Keep doing. You got to do it. If you do it, I mean, very soon you'll realize 1 year is a long time. 365 days you're rinsing and repeating the same process. The amount of intelligence that you will garner, the amount of content that you will, give it out, it's just insane, right? And that is but how many brands do you know that are actually doing this,
Yeah.
right? Very
Very
few.
few. Yeah. Very few.
And why? Because it's hard to do,
It's not very, very hard.
right? The other option is very easy, right? Just give money to partner. Okay, get me, sales. That's just the wrong question to ask. That's just the wrong problem to solve. Initial years, very important. Again, going back to the basics. Why? What is your right to win? How well you understand your customers? How well you're able to solve their problem? How you're doing this? Educating them, engaging them. They don't keep doing it. And initially, it's okay. I've seen examples where people started with simple WhatsApp groups, then they had 100 WhatsApp groups, then they had telegrams, then they had newsletters, then they had everything. Now, yes, it becomes a problem at a later stage. Okay, how do you harmonize all of this data into one place, right?
Yeah.
But it's a good problem to have at a later point of time. Don't overthink. Okay, today what is the best tech solution to do? Arey, forget about it. Don't get worried about the this mechanics. Just do it.
Yeah.
And then later on you'll figure out. There are by the way, there are no great solutions for community engagement or management out there. We have tried many, we have spoken to many, we have done a lot of things. There are only point solutions. So this problem will probably persist for a while.
This is very-
Once there is enough and more pull and demand, where people need to harmonize all of this in one place, it will happen. I know a lot of companies are working on it. They've not really cracked it, so to say. That just like a content platform or a commerce platform, there is no community platform equivalent today.
Hmm.
Okay, so it's going to be an evolving space. But I would say don't worry about all of this. Just go out, do whichever way, email, WhatsApp, Insta, whatever it takes. But do engage, do talk, but
Yeah.
don't overdo it. I
Yeah.
mean, don't spam. And whatever you're sending, don't try to send anything to sell.
Yeah.
The moment you're sending anything to sell, you just lost it. But you send, let's say someone was looking for dry frizzy hair problem. A month later, you send, let's say spring is coming, right? Maybe during the spring there is a lot of allergies. It's an allergy season for many, right? Send a good content around it. That what can you do to manage your allergies and this and that and all of that. See, people will value that. In fact, I'll give you one good example again of US, by the way. There was a platform, site called Baby Center.
Yeah.
Okay,
Baby center.
and
Yeah.
we were in US when we had our first kid. And as first time parents or any parent for that matter, everyone is worried, right? So during the pregnancy and the early formative years of the kids, what do you do? Because now you don't have that sort of a support system what you used to have back home. So you're on your own. What do you need to do to figure out? We loved that platform because it was not pushing us to buy products every time. It used to push great piece of content to us that okay, today it is, let's say, whatever, week 32, right? This is how your baby is doing, this is what it's doing, this is what you need to do, focus on this, ABCD and all. So it was almost like very addictive in nature, right? Where you're looking forward to this piece of content. Even today, I must be getting dozens of newsletters of lot of companies, but there are probably a handful of them that I actually look forward to reading,
Yeah.
right? Because they have great piece of content, right? Others, I just do shift delete. I read the, maybe, the subject and then just do a shift delete. 90% of them is shift delete.
No, exact same story for me. I only read a newsletter from the Whole Truth Food, right?
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you know about the brand. So one is Whole Truth Foods. I think they send out some amazing content, right? And it comes directly, seems like comes directly from the founder in the early days, but now there's a team there.
No, of course,
And
you'll have to scale at some point.
No, definitely. But just to summarize that conversation, the insight there is that a founder today needs to marry the particular product and the category, to be very honest, in order to differentiate itself. To really come down to the point, it's really essential for founders today uh, to have a deep insight into the category and churn out consistent content from their own repository. I would say that's very important for them to differentiate. So there's nothing but the founders own passion for the brand that really comes out at the end of the day, that would really decrease the CACs, right? And bring out organic growth.
Correct. In fact, I can give one more example. So during the pandemic, this pet food industry and pet care industry grew suddenly, right?
Yeah.
Initially, couple of brands, I think they did a great job of understanding that pain point of the customer who's a pet parent, is having certain challenges, issues, and based on their own personal experiences, they were able to come up with a solution to that, right? A wholesome, holistic solution to that. The kind of insights they have, is very different than a lot of Me Too brands that came up again in the same space, where if you talk to them, it is all about, okay, my product is this, my product is that, it is, whatever, cruelty free, it is this, things like it. It's all talking about the product, still not talking about the problem statement. Like, who do you appeal to, right? Why, so I think there are two ways, right? Two differences. So like, one who has a deep understanding of the problem statement and is addressing that through products. Others who are just creating a Me Too copy of the products and then, differentiating on the product features and capability and price. That's a race down to the bottom, right? That's where like you end up burning money, and you will not succeed. It's a matter of time. So this is where you say, like, you first start with a story. You got to get in there. Why are you doing this? What's your right to win? How does this, what solutions your TG requires in the first place? What will, make their lives easier, right? Addressing that first, then comes the product. Product should be, almost like an afterthought. It should not be product first. It should be problem first.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Dhiraj, I think you talked a lot about the community side of it, and how do you harness organic growth. Just want to zoom in and understand how brands effectively measure. How should actually brands effectively measure the impact of their content and community efforts? It's very important to put in on those efforts, but measuring is also very important. So do they track some organic sales month over month, and that metric they should take into account in order to get to a point where they understand, okay, that it is really working out? How does one solve for that today? How do they measure?
Again, another very good question, Yash, because see, this is where I feel again, a lot of brands make a huge mistake. Because initially when you're starting on this journey of attracting customers organically and you're investing in content and community, very soon the patience run out, for the brands, and they say the first thing is, okay, what is the ROI? What is my organic traffic or organic conversion, organic sales, and all of that, right? And then suddenly, so what? I've spent millions on this, but I'm getting only peanuts in return. Oh, no, it's not working. Let's just shut it down, or let's scale it down. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So that is exactly the wrong approach to take. What they need to do instead is, you need to first look at some leading indicators. See, organic sales and organic growth will come eventually. Initially, you got to have some leading indicators, right? Just start with very basic. How many pieces of content you are creating first? How many people you are actually bringing, onto your community platform, be it WhatsApp or Telegram or whatever, right? Then how many engagements you are getting? Initially, just the number of pieces of content alone. How many products? Let's say if you have 20 SKUs, for each SKU, how many relevant content are you creating? How many problems statements you're addressing for that? How frequently you're updating it? How, you got to keep refreshing. Yes, some pieces of content will be evergreen. They will continue for a long time. But some pieces you'll have to keep, harnessing. You have to keep, creating new. So initially, just very simple metrics of how many pieces of content you're creating, how many users you're touching, how many open rates and things like that you are having on that. Then later on comes the engagement piece. How many people are liking, commenting, all of that. Again, while these are still vanity metrics, but still they're at least little leading indicators.
Yeah.
Because once all of this starts happening, then you'll get a sense, okay, whether this style of writing or whether this problem statement is resonating or not, right? And then you can keep improving, working on it. Then later on comes, okay, how much traffic I'm getting through this, how much conversion I'm able to improve. Maybe earlier my conversion was 2%, but if I'm able to make it 3% over a period of time, it's a 50% jump, right? So, and then you'll finally look at, the sales and everything. So it should be nuanced that way. Don't straight away look at the sales and all. Start with the leading indicators, then, indicators that will give when you are in the middle of the journey, and then eventually when you are in a steady state. Then you can look at the conversion rates and the revenue.
Okay. And what time? So if the brand is starting, say their organic growth journey today, right? Whether it's from the SEO side of things, where WhatsApp communities, right, churning out content, from today onwards, right? In how many months? Consider that they're pushing out great content. In how many months should they start seeing the result of that, and the organic growth really taking up chunk of share in their revenue mix?
Yeah, so I would say again, while again, the typical consultant answer will be it depends.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think as a ballpark, I would say people should start seeing some, that early signs of life that this is working within about, let's say, 6 months or so. They will
6 months.
start, figuring it out that yes, maybe this narrative style is working or this is working or people are liking it. This at least it will take a minimum of 6 months. For some brands, it may take a lot longer. For some brands, it may take little lesser. But this is just the early signs of life. It's not that you have conquered it yet, right? To actually get that, the flywheel going, and have that exponential curve, that point of inflection coming in for a business. I think it is easily 18 to 24 months journey. It's not going to be less than that. So anyone who is not in it for long haul should not be, in this, model. If you're happy to burn VC money and play the valuation game, good for you. But if you really want to build a, generational brand, something that will last, decades, you got to play this game because in a matter of decades, 18 months is nothing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So this approach is, right only for them who are looking to build a long-term brand.
Makes sense. So the insight there is that that usually the strategy really works out for founders that are wanting to build an enduring brand and has
Correct.
deep love and passion for the category as well. Only I think
Absolutely.
then someone can put in that amount of effort and really scale it up
Correct. Correct.
through
Uh,
content community and the
correct.
commerce
Yeah. And having
strategy that
said
we're
that,
talking
just
about.
one clarification. It's
Yeah.
not that for 18 months you will not see anything.
Yeah, obviously.
You will start seeing the early signs within 6 months, and then you will start seeing the incremental growth over a period of time.
Yeah.
But that exponential curve you will reach at some point of time. Now again, some brands can reach it much faster, right? Within 6 months, within 9 months. But I'm just giving, I would rather set the expectations low, so that people are prepared for the long haul, and then work on it, and then get pleasantly surprised later on, okay, that maybe they have cracked it in 6 months rather than waiting for 18 months.
No, makes sense. I think the 6 month, 3 month bracket can be for categories that are really building up, that have started to build up maybe, and there are some new and innovative solutions that have not been seen before. I think that is where a lot of
Correct.
traction would really come in fast, and customer would start
Correct.
buying those products through content itself. Makes sense. Lovely, Dhiraj. I think this has been a super interesting conversation. I have genuinely taken away a good framework in my mind on how to approach the 3C strategy. And I definitely believe that brands today should start looking at, branching out of their existing performance marketing initiatives and amping up their organic revenues. Right? That's I think the need of the hour. Thank you for having this conversation, Dhiraj. It has been a pleasure hosting
Thanks
you.
for having me again. Enjoyed this. This is an area which is very close to our heart. Yeah, I mean, happy to chat anytime.
Thanks.